And I think many people are so comfortable with one income. Earlier, I think as a woman, and let me talk to women, okay? As a woman, and then when they found out I was the boss, the language shifted. Yeah.
Hello guys, good afternoon and welcome back to my YouTube channel. On today's episode, I have Madame Jenny Lyons, a professional auditor based in the United States, but decided to leave the corporate world and come back home to Cameroon to establish 3 different independent companies. On this episode, we are going to find out the reason there for her decision and how it's been so far being a female entrepreneur in Cameroon. Stay tuned guys, and don't forget to like. Hello guys, good afternoon and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your boy Chimex here again, and with me on this episode I have the Afro boss lady herself, Madame Jenny Lyons.
Jenny Lyons, yes.
Yes, Jenny Lyons. Many of you know her as the Afro boss lady. She has a YouTube channel as well, the Afro boss lady. She's an entrepreneur extraordinaire. So I just had to beg her for a little bit of her time so that you can educate us. Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon. Nice meeting you. And thank you for coming over. I know it's been hectic trying to figure out the best schedule. Thank you.
Thank you too. So finally, I'm here with the Afro Boss Lady. So who is Afro Boss Lady?
Ooh, she's a woman of many talents. So, by the way, guys, the name Afro Boss Lady came about, I think, 1 year ago. So, it hasn't been long. But the name started because people called me Boss Lady so much over the years that when I wanted to rebrand myself, I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to say Boss Lady because I'm African. So, I would be the Afro Boss Lady. So, I'm an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. I have 3 companies. I have a school, I have a bridal company. You guys are actually in my store. And then I also have a consulting company. So that's what I do.
All right. We'll get more detail into that during the course of the interview. So, Madam Afro Boss Lady, it's been a year since you got back to Cameroon from America. Guys, from the US of A. She left the US of A to come invest in Cameroon.
Cameroon, yeah.
How has that journey been like?
It's a journey of many years. So I started investing here 2016. 2016. I want to say 2016 because that was when my first business here was launched. But it's always been a plan. So it's not like you just wake up one day and then you say, let me come to Cameroon because I'm tired of the US. I had a pretty good life in the US. I had a pretty good career. But I think living with a dad that is so patriotic, like my dad is like Cameroon for everything. Yeah. Like he would rather go somewhere else on vacation, but he will always come back to Cameroon. So I think I grew up with him, so I always had this thing of I'm going to come back eventually. So the journey of investing in Cameroon started way before I actually had the money to invest. I just had to work for it, and then bit by bit, I was able to build the first one, the second one, and the third one. Yeah.
It's been a year so far physically being present in Cameroon. And
after 14 years, after 14 years.
So
yeah.
Are you going to tell someone watching us, like Americans, those in the diaspora in general, like, are you going to advise them to come invest back in Cameroon? Like,
first of all, yes. Like, I mean, I have to say yes. Because to a certain extent, I think my whole personal brand is for people to know that it's possible to come back to Africa, not just Cameroon, because I know many people from Ghana, Nigeria, all these places who are going back to the countries. Yeah. So I have this saying that I always tell people, if we, the African diaspora, if we don't come back to invest here, who is going to do it for us? Who is going to, propel Cameroon on a bigger platform? So there's not even a question. And I know many people are reluctant because once you've lived abroad and you've been comfortable, it's really hard to move back because it's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. But I would definitely advise people to move back, and I think that's why I even started vlogging about my coming back to Cameroon, because I wanted to be able to show people that it is possible. Yeah.
But you know, coming back to Cameroon and investing in Cameroon can be really tricky because Cameroon, out of 10 regions, has just 2 major business hubs: Douala, Yaoundé. If you're not investing in Douala, you're investing in Yaoundé. I've never seen someone who lives, or a young man who says, okay, I'm going to Edea to go invest, or I'm going to, let me say, Garoua to go and invest. Why do you think everything about Cameroon is centered between Douala or Yaoundé?
I think because that's where people gravitate towards, because the big city means that that's where the money runs, right? But this is what I'm going to tell you. There are many people that I know that live in Yaoundé that are moving to Douala, because people know that in Douala things move fast, you know, the business is there. But eventually, once you have settled, you have something here. It's just like when you go to the US, for example, and then you're thinking about a state that will give you really quick jobs. You're gonna go to places like New York, Washington, D.C., all of these hubs where it's really quick for you to find something, to find a job. So I think Douala and Yaoundé are that, and mostly Douala even, because Douala is more like people are quicker on their feet. So I had the opportunity to invest. It's still going on. I haven't made a decision yet, but to invest in an establishment in Edea. It's funny that you say Edea, because I have that opportunity. That was even my store, like the first store that I launched in Cameroon. People were like, you know, oh, put it in Yaoundé, put it this. And I had an amazing opportunity to put it in Edea. But you also have to think of how many people are going to be buying in Edea versus how many people in Douala are going to be buying your wedding gowns. So you have to, if you're starting out, I would suggest that you go to the big cities. Unfortunately, you go to the big cities, because the more people are in those cities, the more money you can possibly make. And then when you get to a point where now you have leverage, you can expand to other cities. But I think that's why people gravitate towards Yaoundé and Douala, because of the population.
Being a business woman in Cameroon, do you feel like that has hindered you? Have you felt any discrimination with regards to your gender? Maybe you might give contracts to contractors and they are like, okay, let me just do whatever I can. She's a woman, she can't do anything to me. Or maybe enjoy some discounts from prices because you're a beautiful lady. And so everything has its positive and negative side. So being a woman in Cameroon, have you faced any discrimination, be it good or bad?
First of all, I've never gotten any discount. So you guys shouldn't look at this and be like, oh, I'm sure she's getting, no, I haven't gotten any discount. I was just telling him earlier that I will have cops pull me over. And because for a long time, I mean, when I just moved, I was driving, but I didn't have my driver license. So I would have cops pull me over, and they would be like, why don't you have a, and I would always show my American driver license, you know, like the Texas, because Texas driver license. I would show the Texas driver license. And then I would tell them, no, I'm Cameroonian, but this is my driver license that I'm showing you because I got it from the US. And I remember they would always ask me for money, you know, oh, give us this amount of money. And then after you give them money, they will ask you for your phone number, just because, you know, they want to take you out or something. So no, I've never gotten a discount. But when it comes to discrimination, because I'm a female entrepreneur, a young female entrepreneur, because I think it makes a huge difference. Because a woman who looks like my mom in her 50s, if she's an entrepreneur or she's going about doing business, people respect her, okay? When it comes to being young and looking like I always say like a Barbie, because I always like curly hair, all of these things. So people don't take you seriously, okay? People do not take you seriously at all. Many people, I've been in offices where I would go and find, because, okay, so when I moved back, I wanted to know every single thing. The person who was handling my taxes, the school taxes, I kind of fired the person. I was like, let me go ahead and find out on my own, because I knew he was stealing money from us. So I was like, let me go ahead and find out on my own if he's doing the right thing. So I found out so many things that he wasn't doing, and then we had to pay penalties and all of these things. So I remember going to those offices, and I don't even know how they call them, the tax officers, whatever. They will ask me to go and tell my boss that such and such. And I'll be just, people assume that you cannot possibly be the boss. So they will ask me, like, go and tell your boss Jess, because they would think I'm the assistant. And I was with my staff here, Pasi, and we went to the tax office, the old office that was here. And there was an all elder man that was walking by the hall, and we're waiting on somebody to, get us. And he basically said, I don't understand why some of you are here. Like, you're supposed to be at school.
Wow.
And it wasn't even enough. So he walks by and he says that, and he comes back again and he says, I'm talking to people like you. He points at me and says, I'm talking to people like you, that aren't you supposed to be at school? And it was just one of those. And I remember I just took my cool, and my staff was more like, she wanted to respond, she wanted to say something, but I was like, there's no need, because I get that all the time, where people will ask me, did you just graduate? Even in America, people will always ask me, did you just graduate? When I was like, okay, I've been doing this thing for like 8-9 years. Like, what you mean I just graduated? So I think when it comes to discrimination, it's just the fact that, first of all, I'm a woman, but second of all, I'm just younger than they can imagine. That's really what I think the disrespect is there. I've had male men talk to me in any shape or form just because they thought I was somebody that the boss sent. And then when they found out I was the boss, the language shifted. Yeah. I think even in America, we have a lot of young entrepreneurs, but I think when you black and young and you don't look like the typical, people still underestimate you. So it's not just Cameroon, it's really everywhere. Yeah.
When did you realize that, all right, I don't want to belong to corporate America anymore. I don't want to belong to the corporate world anymore. I want to get into the business world. When did you make that decision?
That's actually a good question. Many people don't know this, but I never wanted to, I did not like school, okay? Beside all the degrees that I got, I didn't like school. I found myself, because I was always a creative. I always had a creative mindset. I wanted to be a singer at some point. I wanted to be a designer. I wanted to do everything that has to do with the creative world. What happened to me is that when I went to the US back in 2007, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I did not like school enough. I knew I didn't want to work the 9-to-5 job. But what happened is that when you don't have any other options, like, I wasn't talented with a beautiful voice for me to go and venture into music. I wasn't skinny like a model for me to be like, hey, And I was in a country where I had to learn the language, first of all, because I was fully francophone. So I found myself where I was like, okay, you don't have a choice. You cannot be the creative that you want to be. Like, the only option for you is school, because this is why your parents sent you here, is school. So I found myself going to school just because I didn't have an option. But if I had a talent, I would have pushed school aside, because I just didn't like the whole thing of like studying for exams and doing this and that. And I did good. I wasn't just the typical person that you would think was smart enough to go to school or do these things. So I ended up doing auditing, because I have an accounting degree, but I ended up doing auditing. That's where my expertise is in internal audit, tax audit, a little bit of external audit. So just because I wanted something different, I didn't want the whole bookkeeping, accounting, data entry type of, every day is the same, looks the same. You're always crunching numbers. So I wanted something different. So I was like, okay, the audit world looks a little bit different, because when you're auditing, even as an internal auditor, you're auditing your company, but you're auditing different departments within your company. and you get to find out what they do, how they have the processes together, if they have internal controls. And the same thing with the tax audit, the external audit. I audited more than 300 companies in the US, and I liked that because it was different, right? So I did that for a while because I did not have, that thing that they call confidence in myself that I could become an entrepreneur. I felt like maybe that was just a dream, let me just forget about it. Until I started working on myself, and I'm talking about personal development, where I started asking myself the question, but why are you doing this career? You're not even happy with it. Like, I loved it, but I didn't love it enough to retire in it. That's when my mind started shifting, and I started thinking about what else would you want to do. And this was my first business, because I told you I wanted to be a designer.
Yeah.
So I started saying, okay, let me invest and see how this thing can work. So I started this business unofficially in 2013, but officially 2016. So that's really, I think this is the first business that I launched in the US that made it possible for me to branch out and do something else, and kept on, reinventing the wheel. So that's a long story, but that's basically how I came about. Yeah.
So you own a bridal business, bridal wear. So can you let us into the other businesses which you run, the ones you want us to know?
Okay, so I have a bridal company. I sell online in the US. I used to have a kind of store, I want to call it a showroom in the US, and then I have this store here in Douala. And the other business is a primary school. It's kindergarten and primary, which they call it nursery and primary school. So it's a bilingual school. It's also located here in Douala. And I also have a consulting business. The consulting business, I actually launched it last year, 2020. So my consulting business basically assists the diaspora who wants to come back to Cameroon and invest. So many of my clients actually live abroad, but they have their investments here in Cameroon, and I'm the one who managed all those investments. So that's pretty much it.